We got it all, baby.
Buying your dream home can be the best day of your life.
I was so excited. I was so happy in the house.
You want to talk about that job next week?
Anytime you like, Jerry. Just talk.
But sometimes dreams are shattered.
Can't mow there. That's mine. What?
He just started acting really erratic. Something just ain't right.
You move this car and you move it now.
The dispute got worse with time.
Get off my land.
My husband got tired of being harassed.
You little shrimp. Shut up, Wilson. What you gonna do?
There was no de-escalating it.
He's dangerous.
It had got to the point where it was like a different look in his eye. Like he could kill somebody.
Hey, Herbert!
See you later.
I don't think anybody saw this coming.
Hi, Daddy.
This isn't over. Squeeze the trigger whenever you're ready.
Danville, Virginia is the kind of place you want to come home to.
Danville's a great place to live. It's a small southern community, probably about 38,000 people. You know, everybody pretty much knows everyone.
It has a Pepsi building and a lot of brick, you know, the cobblestone streets, a lot of coffee shops. I just felt totally safe.
Robin Wilson and her husband Jerry have called Danville home for over 15 years.
How are you doing? These are both yours.
I met my husband in 1976 in New York City.
Oh.
He was a gentle giant.
Oh, no.
So charming and debonair. I couldn't resist. He was originally from Danville, and he always wanted to go back to where he started from.
With their 2 kids grown and gone, Jerry and Robin are getting ready to retire and looking forward to relaxing with their dogs, Snoop and Feisty.
He was working at Goodyear, and I was at a call center. It was intense, but when I got home, it was like, you know, in my home and happy.
Weeks earlier, their retirement plans became even sweeter when Jerry pulled off the ultimate surprise.
Maybe one day, baby.
He was always looking at that house because we would walk our dogs past there. It was just something I always wanted. It's a beautiful home.
No. No, you didn't! Jerry!
He said he just bought the house, and I was so excited. It was my Mother's Day present. I was just so elated.
The Wilsons instantly settle into their dream home.
He was the grill master. He loved to cook, and he loved to eat.
We got it all, baby.
We do. We do.
I was so happy in the house, and, you know, we were doing things. We were going out buying furniture, and I was feeling pretty good.
Hey, Moms.
Their new neighbors,
How you doing, Miss Mary?
retired contractor Herbert Snipes and his wife Mary,
Wait till you taste this chicken.
quickly become big fans of Jerry's barbecue skills.
My husband actually used to call her Moms. I called her Miss Mary. She was so nice and sweet and pleasant.
Herbert is a lifelong resident of Danville. He purchased his home back in the 1970s, years before meeting his spouse.
Herbert and Mary Snipes didn't have any children, but Herbert had quite a few siblings, so his nieces and nephews became kind of like children to him. His name was Herbert, but his close friends and family called him Pee-wee.
Hey, Pee-wee, you want to talk about that job next week?
Anytime you like, Jerry. Just talk.
My husband had spoken to him before about doing some work on our house.
He was friendly and kind, and I guess always there ready to help when they needed it.
It doesn't take long for the neighbors to get to know each other, given their close proximity.
The 2 houses were pretty close together, with the driveway that came up from the back of the property between the 2 houses
See y'all later.
When the Wilsons first moved in, I don't think they had any real difficulties with each other.
But within weeks, the homes become too close for comfort.
You little shrimp! It's mine!
For now, Jerry and Robin are enjoying their piece of paradise.
The Wilsons liked keeping up their property, doing yard work, taking care of their land.
My husband put on the jumpsuit and he would go out there and fix the yard. It just had to be just beautiful.
Yet something about the Wilsons tending to their space annoys Herbert.
All of a sudden, out of the blue, he looked grumpy. He just looked like a mean old man.
Shouldn't be mowing there. What? You can't mow there. That's mine.
Snipes thought that they were mowing on his property.
Come on, man. You know this is mine. What is he talking about?
Dunno.
I just told my husband to ignore him because I didn't think that it was serious. When you reach a certain age, you just look grumpy.
Jerry and Robin try to shake off their neighbor's bizarre behavior, but soon realize it isn't over.
Sitting on the porch, he'll ride past in his truck and mean mug. Like he'll ride past and just stare you down. Everybody on the block would say, you know, that's a mean old man, but we never did anything to him.
Even Jerry's hobbies add fuel to the fire.
You know, the boys have to have toys. My husband was always tinkling with some type of hot rod. Mr. Snipes, he had a problem with him parking the hot rod in the driveway.
You smell that? It's disgusting. You can't do this. You can't. Jerry, you gotta stop.
What?
You gotta stop.
What are you talking about now?
He said that the fumes from it was coming in his house.
I can hardly even breathe in my own house.
You kidding me? Seriously?
You keep it up and I'll call the cops.
Come on, Pee-wee. This is my driveway.
I'll call the cops.
Call the cops then. Go ahead.
Wow. He's unbelievable.
I just told my husband, just don't park it there no more. To keep the peace, my husband would move the vehicle.
No, Jerry, no!
Jeez, what now?
My husband was getting frustrated because if we parked in our backyard, he would say that all of that property over there was his too.
He didn't believe that the Wilsons had any property behind him.
It's my property. He can't park there.
Mr. Snipes apparently believed that he owned all of that property.
You move this car and you move it now!
And this was a situation where Mr. Snipes had in his mind that he was right and nobody else was.
Jerry's an easygoing guy, but this is too much.
You don't own this property.
Yeah, I do.
No, you don't.
Herbert, let's go in.
It's my property, and I'll park here if I want.
My deed! I'll show you. It's mine!
Herbert had a deed from the 70s that he thought conveyed both his parcel and the Wilson parcel to him.
He was claiming that our house was on his property, like they built it on his property. It made me really nervous. It did.
Okay, we'll just have to check our deed then, Mr. Snipes, okay?
Robin rushes down to City Hall to check that their deed is valid.
You live at 529 Cabell Street.
When I gave her the address, and she was like, oh my God, I don't know how you live next door to this man, because he's down here all the time.
Robin learns that Herbert's belief he owns both properties was born long before she and Jerry moved in.
Herbert did have issues with the family that the Wilsons purchased the home from. He went to various officials at City Hall on more than one occasion.
It was always about the property, the same exact issues. So that means that this has been going on for years and years and years and years.
So your property runs parallel to his, just as far back, and you have legal access through the alley at the back of the property as well.
Okay, thank you very much.
They had a deed that conveyed to them exactly their property as they believed it was.
Our deed's right, and he's been saying it isn't for years.
Without realizing it, the Wilsons have moved right into the middle of a toxic and time-honored land feud.
God, what have we done?
Jerry Wilson wasn't one to back down, so confrontations were inevitably going to arise.
That's exactly what they want us to do!
That's right. Run away!
He was so fixated with this house and this piece of property, and I don't know why.
It seems each day, Herbert Snipes becomes more convinced he owns Robin and Jerry Wilson's land.
I'd peep out the door and see them out there, you know, with their paperwork.
The truck shouldn't be here, the car shouldn't be. You see it, right?
With their validated deed in hand, the couple hopes they'll be able to put an end to Herbert's tirade.
Moving in and having their neighbor essentially tell them that he owns their property was very off-putting to them.
Look at it, Pee-wee. It says it plain and simple.
I don't care.
My husband was getting frustrated with it.
I don't think Jerry Wilson would have been at all threatened by Herbert Snipes. Jerry Wilson was former military, so I don't think he was intimidated at all.
Get off my land!
We went to the city, and the property's ours.
It's because you took it. You took it. It's our house. You took our house.
He told my husband that he stole that property from him.
We bought this property from the previous
Neighbors! It wasn't theirs to sell. It's mine and I want it back!
I said, this is getting to the point where it's harassing.
What was surprising was just how obsessed one person could become over how much property they think they own.
Eventually, Herbert calls a city surveyor to determine the boundaries once and for all.
He wanted whatever he thought was taken from him, he wanted it deeded back to him.
The city would measure where the property ended and where it began, and over and over and over.
Everything's accurate.
The surveyor's appraisal exactly matches the Wilsons' deed.
We were never, ever on his property at all.
You did it wrong. That can't be right.
Not even a piece of grass is over there. He would be totally upset because they're not agreeing with him.
I don't know why the surveyors coming out didn't solve the problem for him. No matter how many times people told him, this is what your deed says, he didn't accept it.
The Wilsons try to carry on with their lives.
Robin and Jerry just wanted to be left alone. They lived in a house that, of course, Robin loved, fell in love with. They just wanted to live and let live. They didn't want to be bothered with it.
But everything they do incites more rage from Herbert.
That's our backyard he's in.
Herbert Snipes would look out the windows to monitor what he thought was his property. And his obsession affected his marriage.
Can we just talk about something else for once?
Whose side are you on anyway, Mary? Whose side?
He would talk about his property issues with his wife, Mary Snipes, and whenever she disagreed with him, he would treat her poorly as a result.
We have to move on, Herbert.
Listen to me, I'm talking to you. That's right, run away. That's exactly what they want us to do.
After years of suffering through Herbert's rants, Mary has finally had enough.
Thank you.
She ended up leaving because I guess it was too much for her. I think she was trying to make him stop, but he just wouldn't stop doing what he was doing. That's when he just started acting really, really erratic. When she left, he just went full speed ahead.
Armed with a new theory about who appropriated his property, Herbert's calls to the city become relentless.
I'll stop calling you when you tell me why you let the Wilsons steal my property.
Snipes just felt that the city had illegally sold them his property.
The deed is false, and you know it.
Everything he did, the answer always came back the same. He did not own what we would call the Wilsons' property.
When Robin's mother comes to visit, it only enrages Herbert more.
Neighbors live in such proximity to each other, and therefore it's a higher instance of things escalating.
When my mom was there, we spent a lot of time on the porch. They would just come out to just stay over there. And my mom, she said, I ain't worried about that old man, but it made me uneasy.
See how he's staying over here, Jerry?
Looking all creepy looking. Oh my God. You can't even enjoy sitting on your porch.
Damn it, Pee-wee. Seriously?
For Herbert, the presence of Robin's mother is just another reason to call the police.
He was saying that the city had taken some of his land, and he was fixated on some vehicles that were behind the house.
City done me wrong, sir. I need this corrected, or the Wilsons will run roughshod over my land back there with their cars and their trucks. They can't just drive through my backyard and park their car. Can't you do anything?
Well, obviously, sir, this is a civil matter.
Oh, give me that.
It wasn't a police matter. It was nothing I could fix.
You have to deal with City Hall.
You think that's fair? You gonna let them get away with it?
No one could help him. He was convinced that it was all a conspiracy against him to take his land.
You need to do something about this.
Jerry and Robin's retirement dream has turned into an endless nightmare. Even their dogs get caught in the middle.
Every morning at 6:30, we would get up in the morning and walk the dogs.
Jerry had 2 pit bulls, and Herbert was somewhat afraid of them.
He couldn't stand my dogs. If he could have poisoned them, he probably would have.
And it appears the hatred is mutual.
No one saw this coming. This was out of left field.
Get off my lawn! Go call your mother.
The long-growing problem that got worse with time.
He sicked them on me. They're man-eaters.
That's not true, officer.
That's not true at all.
He's lying. Snipes claimed that Jerry Wilson would sick his dogs on him while he was mowing his grass.
Sick of
Jerry Wilson says the attack Herbert Snipes describes never happened. He claims his dogs got loose by accident.
The dogs wasn't mean. Of course they gonna act like dogs. That's any dog. My husband never, ever, he never sicked our dogs on anybody. Never.
Okay, sorry about that, Herbert.
With no injuries or witnesses, there's nothing the officer can do the Wilsons know Herbert isn't satisfied.
Everything he did seemed to indicate he wanted to have the Wilsons out.
If Herbert will exaggerate a dog attack, Robin wonders what else he's capable of.
The dispute between the two families did really get to the Wilsons. Robin was concerned about it escalating to some type of violence.
What's he gonna do next, though? I'm telling you, if you don't tell the police about what he's doing, I will.
No, you won't. You ain't gonna do nothing. Listen, I got this.
I wanted to go downtown myself and have something out on him for some type of harassment, and my husband wouldn't allow me to do it.
I'm telling you, he's dangerous.
Come on, man. That old dude? I got this. All right?
My husband, I guess from being in the military, they have no fear.
Jerry has more than military experience to keep he and his wife protected.
Jerry Wilson had 2 handguns in the house. He was a responsible gun owner and knew how to use them.
He actually was a sharpshooter in the military. I didn't like him myself, but he liked having them.
His extra security incites even more tension between the neighbors.
Herbert Snipes claimed that Jerry Wilson carried and handled guns frequently around him. He claimed that Wilson was threatening to him and trying to intimidate him.
Herbert makes certain he's equally prepared.
Herbert had a .22 caliber long rifle that he kept at easy access to the front door.
The escalating situation leaves his family concerned for his mental health.
Herbert Snipes' relatives offered to have him stay with them, but he did not want to leave his property because he was afraid that the city would take his property away from him if he left.
Since her uncle won't budge, Herbert's niece stops by to lend a hand.
Dear Congressman, my property. Dear Mr. Mayor, dear Governor.
Due to his low level of education, Mr. Snipes couldn't read or write very well, but he had help from family members that would write letters.
My property has been stolen.
Unfortunately, all officials contacted maintain that Herbert does not own the Wilsons' property.
I'm sorry. At least we tried.
If everyone gave him the same answer, he would end up saying, well, I guess you're wrong too.
This isn't over. I'm not done yet.
There were really no options because this was a problem that was in Herbert's mind.
Then, he realizes there's still one person who could help him.
If you please look into this matter and help me get this right. Sincerely, Herbert Snipes. President Barack Obama.
He wrote a letter to President Obama regarding the situation.
Thank you. Thank you.
I think the family were just really humoring him. They couldn't seem to correct his view that he didn't own the other property, so I think they just tried to help in what ways they could.
Surprisingly, the White House responds to his letter.
Look! Look! A letter from the White House! Look at that!
Dear Mr. Snipes, in regards to your request, this matter should be taken up at City Hall.
The response to his letter to Obama was this is a local matter.
Yes! Yes.
While others would consider this a setback, Herbert sees Washington's reply as proof his cause is just.
He had been down to City Hall many times, and to the point that people either knew him by face or at least were familiar with him coming down.
Hello, Mr. Snipes.
A letter from the President of the United States.
Okay, we talked about this. You're gonna have to leave.
They said it was a local matter. That's you!
Even the president's apparent seal of approval doesn't change the outcome for Herbert.
The legal secretaries couldn't help him. They told him that he only owned his parcel, and he just didn't accept it.
If you don't leave right now, I'm gonna be forced to call the police.
His greatest victory becomes his worst disappointment. The bitterness sends him spiraling.
Don't you see it, officer? Don't you see it here?
He really started calling the police on a regular basis. If you call an officer, you know, they have to come out regardless of whether they think it's just nothing.
Sir, I told you before, this is a civil matter.
The police are used to fixing things, and this was a situation I couldn't fix.
Then Herbert shocks everyone with his latest theory.
Don't you see it here? It shows the whole land is mine, the whole block.
He claimed that, that he had owned the entire block, but the city was illegally and wrongly selling his property to other people. Of course, that wasn't true.
The whole block! You're absolutely nuts!
There was no reasoning with Herbert, and there was no really de-escalating it.
Don't you see it, officer?
A civil matter. Excuse me.
Wait, officer, don't you see it? Didn't you see it? Come back!
There was nothing that we could do, Obama could do, anybody else could do.
For Jerry Wilson, Herbert's claims have entered the realm of the absurd.
At first, my husband said maybe because he's lonely. But then it got to the point where he's just crazy.
You're nuts! Wacko, woohoo! Stop it!
He need to be in a mental institution. Something just ain't right.
Get off my block!
The madness pushes Herbert's neighbor to the edge.
I think it would be a living hell because it would be something that you would have to deal with every day.
You belong in a loony bin.
Mr. Wilson, that's enough.
Herbert's niece did say that she witnessed Jerry Wilson being somewhat bullying towards Herbert.
Wacko!
I'm not surprised Jerry poked fun at him a little bit.
Stop it!
Considering how firm Herbert's belief was and how many times he brought it up.
One night, Jerry has some friends over to blow off steam.
My husband had a couple of his friends on the porch, and they had them a couple of beers.
Herbert sees this as an opportunity for revenge.
And then Ed said, "Don't blame me, man. That's how big it's supposed to be."
Nothing about this made sense. This was completely outside of his character.
All of a sudden, out of the blue, the police came running in there.
Hands on your head. Nobody move.
They didn't even see them coming.
Easy. Easy.
Where are the guns?
There's no guns.
Where are the guns?
I said there's no guns.
Frisk everybody. And don't miss anything.
My husband was harassed by the police. They were scared to death.
Man, why are you doing this?
Neighbor says you have guns.
Nobody had a gun at all.
Despite Herbert Snipes' accusations, the police find nothing sinister about Jerry Wilson's gathering.
For the Wilsons to see police swarming around their property, that had to have been pretty scary, pretty overwhelming.
And now, the Wilsons are seriously considering cutting their losses.
We wanted to move to the country. That was our next step. He could have had the house if he wanted it.
But the process could take months.
You can't snap your fingers and do it. The potential is there to lose money, especially if you hadn't been in it long.
Herbert has no idea of his neighbor's plans. And his family is concerned his obsession is becoming an illness.
His relatives noticed some deterioration of the property. A lot of the food in his refrigerator had been in there for years. The house was dirty and run down. And it got to a point where he stopped looking after his hygiene.
Herbert's niece tries one last time to make her uncle see the light.
I can't keep coming here if you're not willing to drop all of this.
She tried to work through the deed with him to show him that he didn't own the Wilson property, but he wouldn't accept that.
And Herbert's theories go from crazy to fantastical.
Satellites. It's satellites. The satellites are up there.
He began to think that the government was using satellites so that the government could shrink his property lines.
They're up there, and they're watching down here. They're watching the whole property.
I can't.
Don't you get it?
His relatives would not visit anymore because of the way he behaved.
No one's listening. No one's doing anything. You've done nothing.
The only people forced to hear Herbert out are local officials.
Nothing. Nothing.
And he badgers them incessantly.
We would respond to a plethora of calls. With him being by himself, he had more time to think about his perceived problem. Jerry and Robin have gotten fed up with it.
The Wilsons are being pushed out of the home they love, but Jerry won't go down without a fight.
Yo, Pee-wee! Is that your mom calling? Huh? Is that your mom calling, Pee-wee? Go to hell, Wilson! You little shrimp! Shut up, Wilson! What you gonna do?
Herbert said Jerry would pick at him and dance around, making fun of him.
Is that your mama? You little shrimp! You calling your mama?
Jerry had been dealing with this for over a year, and the old saying goes, you might as well laugh as cry.
Go call your mama, Pee-wee. I'll call the police right now! Go on! Get you off my property! Go call your mama, Pee-wee. Go on! Go call your mama.
That must have been humiliating. He probably felt emasculated.
Go on!
Jerry makes sure Herbert knows who he's dealing with.
Hey, Herbert!
See you later.
Jerry revealed to Herbert that he had guns on him. Virginia is an open carry state, so you can wear it visibly without any problem.
Yet his warning only deepens his neighbor's rage.
This has to happen now, because Jerry Wilson won't get my land back.
Mr. Snipes, we've been over this. I don't know how many times we have to go through this. You don't own your neighbor's property.
They pretty much told him that there was nothing they could do to help him. That's when he said,
"What happens if I just kill him?"
That comment made the secretary very uncomfortable, and they asked him to leave. From a police officer's perspective, it is not a direct threat. It is kind of an idle threat. Although, for someone to say that, it would be very concerning.
What does he think he's doing?
It had got to the point where it was like a different look in his eyes. Like he could kill somebody.
Yet according to Herbert Snipes, Jerry Wilson is the one to fear.
Herbert was convinced that Jerry Wilson was firing his guns in the alleyway next to his home.
My husband got tired of being harassed, but it wasn't my husband. My husband knows the law. You do not do that with a firearm in the city limits.
Jerry knows how little it takes to trigger his neighbor's delusions. And the next time the two men face off, the battle turns deadly.
It was a normal morning. We got up. My husband said the grass need cutting.
As he has done so often, Herbert summons police to fume about his stolen land.
Herbert Snipes had the police officer walk the property with him, and the police officer told him, "You need to talk to the mayor's office."
She had told him if he kept calling in false reports, that he could be charged with unlawfully summoning the police.
Determined to stake his claim yet again, Herbert races off to make his case to the mayor.
Robin went out to run an errand, and Herbert Snipes complained to the mayor, who obviously, once they realized what he was talking about, couldn't help him.
No luck, Pee-wee? Huh? Shrimp.
He came home, and Jerry Wilson was standing in front of his sidewalk, laughing at him.
Nobody's gonna help you, because you're a loco. You little shrimp.
Wilson!
You're crazy.
Shut up, Wilson!
Shrimp.
Shut up!
Herbert said that at that point he'd had enough.
Say, Pee-wee, you gonna go call your mama? Huh?
I can definitely understand the way Wilson reacted.
Yeah, that's right. Run away!
How much are you gonna take?
Hindsight's 20/20, but I did not see anything to indicate that he would be a harm to himself or others. We get a call of a shooting on Cabell Street. Me being about 4 or 5 blocks away, I immediately responded.
Herbert, put your hands up, Herbert.
I knew somebody had been shot. That's about all I knew about it.
What happened?
When I saw Herbert Snipes on the front porch, I immediately put 2 and 2 together and figured he was involved.
What happened, Herbert?
I shot Jerry Wilson.
I approached him. He was stone cold calm, no emotion whatsoever.
Where's the gun?
The gun was leaning up against the hallway right inside the door. In the house next door to him, I saw the glass shattered out of a full-view storm door. So I assumed that the victim was close to that.
Mr. Wilson? Mr. Wilson?
Captain Merricks finds Jerry Wilson lying unresponsive inside his home.
The SWAT medic, fire marshal, was with me, and he immediately started efforts to revive him.
As paramedics work to save Jerry's life, Herbert Snipes tells police his version of what happened.
He was laughing and grinning, dancing in my face.
Crazy. Shut up! Shut up!
Herbert said he was making fun of him, and he decided he'd had enough, and he went and got the gun.
Call your mama, Pee-wee!
When he saw that I got the gun, he ran up to his house a little bit faster.
Herbert said he thought Jerry Wilson was going to get a gun and come after him, claiming that he shot Wilson in self-defense.
Hey, Jerry!
I aimed at him, and then I shot him.
It went through the storm door, shattered the glass, and hit Jerry on the right side.
The bullet went through his right lung, went through his right aorta coming out of his heart, and then into his left lung.
The medic worked on Jerry Wilson for an extended period of time, but unfortunately was unsuccessful. The damage that the bullet did was lethal.
Jerry Wilson bled out into his chest cavity, and that's how he died.
I fell to the ground. That's all I know. I fell to the ground.
I felt it was my duty to try to console her and explain to her what was happening. A lot of times you just don't have words for somebody that has experienced a loss like that.
Herbert was charged with first-degree murder and use of a firearm in the commission of a felony.
During the trial 1 year later, a psychological evaluation reveals how Herbert's background contributed to the tragedy.
You did it wrong. That can't be right.
He only had a third-grade education. That could have affected his understanding.
It shows On my deed, the whole land is mine, the whole block.
And if you have trouble absorbing information from a cognitive standpoint, combine that with the emotional aspect of it.
Jerry Wilson won't get my land back.
Mr. Snipes, we've been over this.
That caused him to start taking on some delusional type thinking.
It's satellites. They're up there. They're watching the whole property.
A judge ultimately decides Herbert is fit to stand trial.
He, at every point, seemed to understand exactly what he had done, that it was wrong, it was against the law, and that now there were consequences.
Herbert's lawyer argues he acted in self-defense because he believed Jerry was going to get his gun.
However, there was really no evidence for self-defense in this case because Herbert had the gun and Jerry Wilson was trying to run inside.
When first responders discovered Jerry, he was unarmed.
There was no evidence that Jerry Wilson had a weapon at the time he was shot. It was no evidence that he made any threats to him.
Shocking testimony from both city officials and police seal Herbert's fate.
When the legal secretary said Herbert's statement,
"What happens if I just kill him?"
the jury really perked up and sort of let that sink in.
The prosecution used that as a strong piece of evidence that this was premeditated.
One of the officers said, he asked, "Where were you aiming?"
I hope I hit him in the head.
He was trying to kill him, and that revealed his intent and his malice. The verdict was guilty as charged. The sentence was 20 years for the first-degree murder and 3 years for the use of the firearm.
Even though he went to jail and he's never going to get out, I just don't feel like justice has been done. You know, my husband ain't here.
Of course, Jerry is a victim, but in my opinion, the main victim is Robin Wilson, because Robin is without her soulmate, and she's left to deal with all of this.
Robin still lives in the house she shared with Jerry, but it will never feel the same.
You know how sometimes you wish you could just turn back the hands of time and start all over and fix things, but I have to move forward. Even though every day it hurts.
New neighborhoods bring the promise of new beginnings.
Well, welcome to your new home, soon to be Mrs. Coon.
They were looking forward to getting married and becoming happily ever after.
Welcome to Beatty Street.
But things turn ugly when generations clash.
Within the first week, he was getting hollered at from Bob Hayes.
We gotta talk. You need to turn down your music, if that is music.
He didn't really feel like it was his house and yard, but it was his street.
You could have killed me! We don't like this kind of recklessness on my street.
Disagreements quickly escalate into a violent war for power.
He was not going to be bullied or intimidated by him.
You want to go, old man? I'm gonna blow you away, you son of a bitch.
The neighborhood bad boy.
I like that, Bobby!
Versus the neighborhood tyrant.
You idiot! Get lost, Bob, before I kick your ass!
Bye, Daddy.
This isn't over. Squeeze the trigger whenever you're ready.
St. Joseph, Missouri is a Midwestern town with a rich history.
Population around 75 to 80,000 people. It's where Jesse James was killed and where Pony Express began.
It's the best of both worlds because it's a small town, but 30 minutes away is Kansas City.
Right in St. Joseph's heart lies Beatty Street, a peaceful cul-de-sac community. For Bob and Pauline Hayes, Beatty Street is a little slice of heaven they've called home for almost 50 years.
It's not too cool out here for you, is it, dear?
No, I'm fine. But I'll make us some tea.
I respect him for wanting to keep a nice, clean neighborhood. You know, I mean, he kept a nice, clean house and all that stuff, and a lot of the others did too in the neighborhood, you know.
Bob is a semi-retired college professor, and Pauline is a homemaker.
He and his wife, Pauline, raised 2 boys. They raised a traditional family. It was pretty much a 1950s family.
The couple is deeply invested in their community, both emotionally and financially.
Bob Hayes owns several of the properties on Beatty Street.
Beatty Street is better known as Bob Hayes Court.
You never miss a beat, Bob. You can set my watch by when you show up the first of every month.
Consistency is a virtue, among many things.
Okay, just give me 1 minute, okay?
Bob's interest in real estate is as much about quality of life as it is about income.
And he knew property values stayed up if the neighborhood stayed up. And he didn't want anything less than what he was already offering the neighborhood.
There you are, sir.
Thank you very much.
It's good to see you.
Nice to see you.
But the newest arrivals to the neighborhood are about to dramatically change the status quo.
We're here.
Tony Kuhn, his fiancée Georgetta Henley, and their 3 children are renting a home just up the block from Bob and Pauline.
All right, for you. Thank you. And for you. Go ahead.
Going down?
Tony was my nephew, and good young kid. He liked listening to his music, and he liked that, and he had a little mustache and always wore his hat backwards like, I'm cool, That's just Tony being Tony, Georgetta was Tony's queen. He treated her like a queen. He treated her like a lady should be treated.
Well, welcome to your new home, soon to be Mrs. Kuhn.
Thanks, Mr. Kuhn.
They loved each other, and they were looking forward to getting married and becoming happily ever after.
Oh, hey!
Hi.
Hey, do you guys live around here?
Yes, just there at the end of the street. We're Bob and Pauline Hayes.
Beauty.
Hi.
I'm Tony. This is my fiancée, Georgetta. This is Amanda. And Sarah, and our youngest, Mike.
Tony and Georgetta and her kids from a previous marriage and Tony's son all moved into the house.
Welcome to Beatty Street. It's a lovely neighborhood.
You're obviously very busy. We'll let you get to it. Okay.
No problem. I'll see you around. Okay, Munchkins.
No one should judge a book by its cover, but the Hayes are immediately apprehensive about their new neighbors.
Bob Hayes kind of had a way he wanted the neighborhood to look, and Tony Kuhn didn't fit that profile.
Bob was an upper class guy. He'd hang around with lawyers, doctors, the rich and upper class people. Tony and Georgetta didn't fit in with his realm of people, whatever.
And when the two worlds collide, violence rocks the street.
This used to be a nice neighborhood, with that family down the road.
How dare you? You're hillbilly scum!
Tony and his family waste no time settling into their new home.
Tony worked part-time, and his girlfriend was a nurse. She made more money, but better for them sometimes for him just to stay home and take care and maintain the kids.
He was a good father to them. He loved to be a father.
Daddy, we're bored.
You're bored? Let's play tag!
While he may be a doting dad, that's not how Tony appears to Bob and Pauline.
He didn't like the noise. He didn't like anybody playing out in the street.
He didn't really feel like it was his house and yard, but it was his street.
There's more behind Bob's disdain than just the noise. For years, he's been trying to buy the house Tony is renting.
Bob had a really good relationship with the people that lived there, and he thought the house was going to go to him, and it didn't.
So Tony was a marked man before he got moved in there. Bob wanted to own the whole neighborhood, and he wanted to rent to whoever he wanted to rent to.
Since the family is here to stay, Bob decides to give Tony a lesson on how things are done on Beatty Street.
Within the first week, he was getting hollered at from Bob Hayes.
We gotta talk. You need to turn down your music, if that is music.
I do call it music, Bob.
So Tony would work on his car all of the time. While he did this, he played loud music. And I think that was extremely offensive to Bob. It could have been a major trigger.
And we've noticed your kids are a little unruly. Can you please keep a closer lookout for them? And this yard, look at it. You're going to have to clean up your yard and keep it clean. We like to have a neat neighborhood, and everybody has to pitch in and do their thing.
He didn't keep really his yard up and let trash accumulate and let the kids run around, and was not a very well-kept house.
And it wasn't in Bob's yard or nothing, but that bothered Bob because, you know, he would look over and see that, you know.
Tony shows Bob how he feels about his rules.
Bob would not let off of him, and Tony was not going to take any crap from him. He was not going to be bullied or intimidated by him.
Thanks for stopping by, Bob.
This round is over, but the battle is only just beginning.
Bob didn't like Tony from the start. So every time they meet, it was like dog and cats.
I think probably Bob looked at Tony as a young kid that didn't care about the neighborhood, and he looked down at Tony as white trash.
Bob, what's wrong?
Our neighbor and his mess is just getting worse. I gotta nip this in the bud.
There was trash accumulating, which is a violation of the health department guidelines.
Hello, city? I need to get somebody up here, an inspector.
So Bob Hayes called them on Tony.
Thank you.
By the time a city inspector shows up, the garbage is gone, so there's no law being violated. Tony has no doubt who summoned the authorities.
Tony had every right in the world to do what he was doing in his own yard, in his own property.
While he may not get a fair shake from his new neighbors, Tony's not exactly trying to make friends either.
Tony always wants to do it his way, and he never appeared to want to change to meet someone else's expectations.
His SUV is a big part of the problem.
He got that Blazer from his mom. That was his baby. Very proud of it. And there might not be nothing wrong with it, but he'll have the hood up, looking at it, seeing if he can find anything or whatever.
And one of the things he would do is, as he was under the car, his legs would be out into the street.
What the hell are you doing? You could have killed me.
Tony continually robbed Bob the wrong way. It was an explosion waiting to happen.
Hey!
The minute Tony would do anything to his Blazer out front, Bob would complain. He wanted him out of the neighborhood. The minute he moved in there.
What's wrong with you? Having your feet out in the street like that?
It's very dangerous. We could have run you over.
A car could turn into Beatty Street, and if his legs were sticking out from under the truck, he could certainly be run over and become a cripple.
It's not dangerous if you watch where you're going.
We don't like this kind of recklessness on my street.
Yeah? Well, it's my street now too, Grandpa.
Tony does not like authority. And in particular, he doesn't like the authority of Bob Hayes.
He basically told him to get lost.
Come on, Bob. Let's go.
Yeah, Bob. Go.
A lot of people conformed to what Bob Hayes wanted, but Tony did not.
Georgetta was a little bit more level-headed than Tony.
Drive safe.
What was that about?
Just a grumpy old man doing what he does best. It's nothing to worry about.
Yeah, except I do worry. Tony, come on.
Georgetta would say, Tony, just let it relax, let it relax.
She didn't like it. She just told Tony don't go out there so much and stuff.
When Tony Kuhn learns more about Bob Hayes' regimented past, the rift between the two men deepens.
Bob's the bull elephant. He participated in World War II. He joined the police department, rose through the ranks, eventually becoming chief of police. And I think once he attained that title, he always thought of himself as the chief of police.
He certainly had a reputation as running a tight department and demanding how things run the way he wanted it run. And Tony Kuhn wasn't accepting it. He was willing to get under Bob Hayes' skin by doing things that would aggravate him intentionally.
It goes back to respect. You have to give it to get it. And Bob never gave the guy any respect. Tony never gave him any back.
Tony's antics continue to test more than just Bob's patience.
Pauline didn't like seeing this kind of activity on their street. Mother knows best, just like father knows best.
Now it's Pauline's turn to give Tony a piece of her mind.
We know that Pauline drove by and she expressed concern.
Young man! Excuse me, I'm speaking to you.
What the hell, lady? I was listening to that.
Listening? The whole neighborhood's listening. Legs sticking out. I've told you it's dangerous.
And I'll tell you the same thing I told your husband. Mind your own business, you old coot.
Remember, Pauline and Bob grew up in the 40s and 50s. You don't disrespect the woman of the house.
Aw, don't go away so mad. I got a present for you.
He grabbed his crotch. That would be a very disrespectful thing for Bob, and he would take that as a personal affront.
What's going on?
That little monster! Tony, he was out on the street again. He yelled at me, and he made an obscene gesture.
It's his wife, whom he's been married to for years, the mother of his two sons. He has to protect his wife.
This time, Bob plans to confront Tony with more than just words.
Robert Hayes himself talked about being a former police officer and that he uniformly carried a gun, that was his common practice.
Hey! I should take your head off. How dare you talk to my wife like that?
Tony was mouthy, just like we all are when we're younger, you know, but Bob didn't know when to shut up, and Tony wasn't going to shut up once Bob started on him.
You can't talk to us like that. I'm a cop. You were a cop, Bob. That gun's not a badge, man. I'm not breaking any laws, and you can't do a damn thing.
You can't boss me around. I'm going to do things my way. The young bull challenging the old bull.
He didn't back off when Tony Kuhn obviously wouldn't follow his directions, so he kept confronting him, trying to perhaps intimidate him.
Listen, and listen good. You shut your mouth, and you stay away from my wife. How about you and your wife stay the hell away from me?
What the hell is going on? You need me to call the police, Bob?
I need you both to get off my lawn.
Hey, that's enough! That's enough! This is not a schoolyard, all of you! Tony, get inside. Get inside. Tony, come on.
You like that, Bob? Yeah!
Many times Georgetta wanted to call the cops or whatever, but they felt like they couldn't get nowhere because who they were making a complaint on, you know.
And each incident is a compounding factor on the entire relationship between the two men. Sooner or later, there is going to be a fight.
Before Bob makes another move, Tony decides to up the ante.
I know there was a lot of feuding going back and forth. At some point, everybody knew something was going to happen.
Hey!
Tony decides to piss Bob off. So he deliberately pulls into Bob's yard and starts doing donuts with his truck. He doesn't want to fight yet, but he sure wants to agitate.
Hey, like that, Bobby!
But again, he could claim, well, I was just trying to turn around. It was a muddy day, and my foot slipped on the pedal. Nobody's going to arrest him for this.
You can mess with a lot of things, but not a man's lawn, especially when that man is Bob Hayes.
Tony has watched Bob take care of his yard. So this is a direct insult to Bob.
Yeah, hi. This is Bob Hayes, former police chief. I'd like to report that a neighbor of mine has torn up my lawn with his vehicle.
He has an expectation, because of who he is, the police are going to come and side with him.
Well, no, I didn't actually see him.
It turns out Bob doesn't have as much influence as he thinks.
And what he's finding is that, no, we're reasonable policemen. We have to look at the evidence, and we can't do it just because you say it so.
Once again, Tony has dodged Bob's attempt to arrest him. But the setback has only added fuel to his fire.
Tony hasn't stepped back. Bob hasn't really stepped back. Where's it going next? What's going to happen next?
Bob isn't willing to wait for their next showdown. He hatches a plan to get concrete evidence on his neighbor.
What the hell do you think you're doing?
Bob has made arrangements to use the garage of one of the properties he owns, giving him a full view of Tony's place.
Spying on my house now? Your house? You're a renter. I own. If you put 1 foot over here, I'm gonna nail you for trespassing.
Everything Tony did, he kept an eye on him. He tried and tried to run Tony out of that neighborhood.
He's doing that just to cause trouble. He's trying to find some reason to put him in jail.
Tony! Tony! Come on.
Tony's aggressive nature and Bob's aggressive nature quickly led to the whole thing escalating to a point where it really didn't matter what the other one was doing. It could lead to an explosion.
Though Tony retreats, it's not long before he steps back into the fight.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
That does it.
He was snooping around the back of Tony's house
off my yard and stay away from my family. You hear me, ancient jerk?
And he went out there and told him and stuff to get his, effing ass away from the house and quit listening.
I'm just minding my business on my own property.
I'm gonna punch you right in your stupid face!
Take your best shot, you white trash punk.
Tony! Stop it, stop! That's exactly what he wants! Don't do it!
George had to come and get you. Tony, get in the house. You know, because Bob and Tony, neither one of them knew when to walk away.
You know, for an old man, you really need to grow up.
Both neighbors are dug in deep. Tony pounces on his next opportunity to antagonize Bob.
Tony Coon had pumped water out of the basement of his home, evidently after a rain, into the street, and that this had caused mud.
Bob's son Jimmy has come to visit.
Oh, forgot my keys. I'll be right back. No problem, Dad.
And he's right where Tony wants him.
Tony then drives the truck over, this time throwing the mud on Bob's son's truck.
Sorry, man. Foot slipped. What the hell? That jackass just spun up and sprayed my truck with mud. Give me one good reason why I shouldn't rip his head off.
Because then they'd have to put the cuffs on you. Come on, let's go.
Bob certainly felt powerless to some extent because Tony kept being able to escalate the situation.
Bob is waiting for the moment when Tony goes too far. Until then, he keeps his enemy close.
Tony was, standing out there in his yard cleaning his, tools up and stuff.
Having a nice evening, neighbor?
Bob was standing out in his garage, cleaning his gun to where Tony could see him.
I can imagine the poor guy was probably feared for his life and getting killed someday.
So he chose not to call the police in that incident, but maybe he thought that he could handle it himself.
Tony will do anything to protect his family. So the next time Bob snaps, he makes sure he's prepared to defend himself.
The animosity between the two of them, they had conflicts between each other whenever they were outside at the same time.
I thought you could use some warming up.
Hey, Bob, you thirsty?
Tony Coon had, I think, walked over and picked up a glass of water and walked over to where Bob Hayes was.
I swear I'm gonna see you in jail.
If you could have sent me, you would have. Dumbass. All right, kids, inside. Now, go, go!
Tony would have beat the living crap out of the guy probably, and wanted to.
You belong in a cage, freak.
You want to go, old man?
Tony Coon pulled out a bat and allegedly stated, "Do you want to dance?"
I'm gonna blow you away, you son of a bitch.
You better not miss.
Mr. Hayes had threatened Tony Coon, and Tony Coon had said, "You better shoot me first." The neighborhood bad boy versus the neighborhood tyrant.
You're hillbilly scum! Get out of the truck!
Tony! Tony!
Neither one of them really knew when to walk away because it just kept escalating and escalating.
Come on, let's go. I'm dying to. Yeah? Yeah. Prove it.
Don't do it!
Tony! Tony!
Tony's girlfriend come out of the house. Said, "Tony, get in the house and get in her now. Walk away."
Stop it now, both of you, stop it!
Oh, get a hold of yourself. It's not worth it. They're not worth it.
Inside, 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 inside. I mean it. You're worse than the children. Get in.
The question is no longer if these neighbors will resort to violence. It's just a matter of when.
People was afraid that someone was going to end up getting hurt on the block. They didn't know who it was going to be, but they figured someone was going to get hurt.
I think Bob just fed off of power. Bob Hayes wanted to be treated like a chief of police until he died.
It does not appear that Tony was particularly concerned about Bob's threats and taking them seriously, because he continued to escalate the situation.
With tensions this high, even a broken lock on Bob's tool shed is treated as a major crime by the Hayes.
Bob thought it was Tony doing the breaking in.
This used to be a nice neighborhood, you know, but that family down the road, they're terrible. Total trash.
And if I have to, I'll take the trash out.
He said, "Boy, I'm having a lot of trouble with that damn neighbor of mine." And he said, "What are you going to do?" He goes, "I'm going to have to shoot the son of a bitch."
I just know how to deal with criminal scum. And I'll do it.
The officer who took that report, he had a lot of experience. If he thought there was any validity to it, I think he would have looked into it more.
He believed Bob was just blowing off steam.
Both men have reached their boiling point, and the next time they face off, it will be their worst and bloodiest confrontation yet.
I knew they argued a lot and this and that, but, you know, I didn't know it was that bad, or I would have tried to intervene somehow.
Just like almost any other day, Tony is happily working away on his blazer.
Tony! Tony!
And he was out there and he's putting brakes on his vehicle and he's playing his music, and his girlfriend said, yeah, he was probably playing a little too loud.
And it's just enough to send Bob over the edge.
Bob deliberately drives his vehicle close to Tony's feet because they're sticking out in the street.
You idiot!
Tony is more than ready for a fight.
Tony jumped out from underneath his blazer because it scared him. He thought old Bob was going to run him over.
Get your tools off the street and turn down that god-awful stuff you call music. Get lost, Bob, before I kick your ass!
Tony has an immediate reaction to that situation and threatens Bob.
Oh, bring it on, bring it on!
Oh, yeah? Yeah, well, I know you hated me and my family ever since we got here.
Because you're hillbilly scum. Get out of the truck! No, get out!
And they started arguing back and forth.
Georgetta heard a pop. She thought a tire or something blew up on Tony or something like that. So she ran outside.
Oh my God.
After months of growing conflict, the Battle of Beatty Street now has a casualty.
So the call came in that there was a shooting. I was working in the detective division. I responded. When I pulled up, Tony Coons was shot in the neck, complaining that he couldn't move or feel his legs.
He shot me. I can't feel my legs.
As Detective Jill Voltmer surveys the situation, Bob Hayes tells his version of events to another officer.
Anyway, officer, as I was saying, I was just slowly coming down the street, and it hit something.
He felt a thud on his vehicle or something striking his vehicle, and that caused him to stop. When he stopped, Tony Coon then confronted him.
Get lost, Bob, before I kick your ass!
Oh, bring it on, bring it on!
Oh, yeah?
Tony Coon started swinging the hammer at him in the vehicle while he's sitting in the truck.
Bob claims he grabbed his gun in self-defense.
Bob shoots, and the bullet hits Tony in the neck.
Right below the chin and right above the Adam's apple.
Oh, what's wrong? What's wrong?
No.
Oh my God.
He was going to kill me, so I reached for my gun. I had to.
He was faced with someone attacking him with a dangerous instrument, deadly force, and had the right to use deadly force in response.
Meanwhile, Detective Voltmer gets Georgetta's side of the story.
Ma'am, try to calm down. Tell me everything.
I don't know, like, I just heard the bang, and then I came outside because I thought it was his tire, but then he's on the ground. There's blood on his neck, and I don't know what it was.
She was inside watching TV, hears the bang, looks outside, runs outside, sees Tony on the ground.
Tony! Tony!
Look, and Tony's laying on the ground with blood on him.
What have you done?
She goes back inside to call 911.
My neighbor shot my husband! No, he's alive, he's breathing!
And then comes back out.
But as Georgetta finishes her statement, the case takes a bizarre turn.
As I was talking to her, a second ambulance pulled up, and she said, wait a minute, what's that second ambulance for? And I said, I think it's for the other half of this.
The detective explains that Bob Hayes was also injured in the confrontation. Georgetta vehemently denies it.
No, I cannot believe this. No, I saw his face. He had nothing. He had no blood on his face. He's lying. He's lying about this.
He didn't have blood on the top of his head. Where did that come from? That was not there when I went down there. That was my first indication that maybe everything wasn't as it seemed.
He's alive, he's breathing.
I don't know Tony, I don't know Bob.
What is he trying to do?
But I would say the truth is somewhere in the middle.
Tony! What have you done?
Georgetta contends that when she heard the gunshot and ran outside, Bob had no injuries or blood on his face.
So she goes in and calls the ambulance.
My neighbor shot my husband! No! He's alive, he's breathing!
And come back out. Bob Hayes then, his blood run down.
She had gone down to the scene and then went back up and called 911. And in that time frame, that blood appeared.
Tony! Oh my God! Oh, Tony! Oh my God!
Both men are taken to the hospital, but there's still one statement detectives desperately need.
So I went out to the hospital and took a statement from Tony, He was very distraught. He knew he was paralyzed. He truly believed he was going to die.
Barely clinging to life, Tony shares his version of events.
You idiot!
He told me Bob Hayes almost ran his legs over, and they started arguing back and forth.
You and your white trash family have to move out of here right now.
Then he stood up and slapped Bob Hayes in the face. And then Bob Hayes pulled a gun out of the door of the truck and shot him.
And he gave a statement, and then after that he was put under sedative and was unable to speak.
After a week in intensive care, 26-year-old Tony Kuhn succumbs to his injuries, and Bob Hayes is taken into custody.
He was tried for murder, but the jury could consider involuntary manslaughter if they didn't find that he was guilty of murder.
At trial, Bob maintains his self-defense claim. But forensic analysis tells a different story of how he got his wounds.
Tony! What have you done?
This expert who comes in and says that Tony couldn't have hit Bob. Bob can't admit he made a mistake, so he's trying to justify what he did, and this is what gets him in trouble.
Then Bob Hayes realized what he did, got out, took Tony's hammer, hit himself in the head to make it look like Tony attacked him, and then it was self-defense.
He's alive, he's breathing!
Georgetta's testimony that Bob was uninjured before she called 911 further discredits his version of events.
After hearing all the evidence, the jury rejected the claim of self-defense.
They found him guilty of involuntary manslaughter. Tony was aggressively at Bob. I think the judge found it very reasonable to believe that part of this was Tony's fault.
Bob Hayes is sentenced to 6 years in prison, 4 years for involuntary manslaughter, and 2 for armed criminal action. To this day, not everyone agrees justice was done.
My theory is that Bob always was a bit of a bully and intimidated people, and he was not successful with Tony. And when Tony slapped him in that truck, that was complete and total rage, and that's when you talk about him losing it, I think that's when he lost it.
2 years into his incarceration, Bob's wife Pauline becomes gravely ill.
They released him so he can be in the hospital with his wife. He stayed out of the jail until she passed away. I don't think he ever went back.
In the end, Bob serves just 24 months of his 6-year sentence. He dies in 2010. For Tony's family, Bob's punishment is no balm for their pain.
Georgetta goes, Steve, I don't know what I'm going to do without him. There's not another Tony out there. We've all got bad in us, but this guy had a heart of gold. He loved them kids. He loved her, and all he wanted to do was be happy.
New neighbors can form a quick bond.
Thank you. It's a new friend.
And they can tear it apart just as fast.
I actually have a favor to ask.
She started borrowing money.
I'm done with your mooching.
I'm not gonna take care of you and your 2 teenage kids.
You messed with the wrong woman! Same to you!
It was his word against her word against his word.
Work it out between you two. Seriously?
It was crazy, like I couldn't wrap my head around it.
A family feud erupts into an all-out war.
You couldn't resolve nothing with her. She was crazy.
There is no negotiation. There is no reconciliation.
Hi, Daddy.
This isn't over. Squeeze the trigger whenever you're ready.
Fresno, California. A sunny city surrounded by rich farmland.
Fresno is located smack dab in the middle of California in the San Joaquin Valley. It's known for its produce.
It's a little big city. I just love Fresno. I do. It's small. It's like my comfort zone.
Inside the city is a townhouse complex that feels like a cozy village.
The apartments are pretty centralized, just kind of a average middle-class neighborhood.
It was very subtle, very quiet. It seemed like everyone just did their own thing.
These babies are almost done.
Alvin Dalton and Laura White have lived here for the last year and a half. Alvin is a courier driver at a nearby hospital.
Mr. Dalton was a hard-working, peaceful individual who was trying his best to make a living and make his way throughout Fresno County.
The flame just went out.
Let me help him.
Oh, you think your good looks and charm will get it going?
It couldn't hurt.
He was nice, and the way he carried himself, and he always talking positive, and he always want people to do the right thing and stuff.
You would have got it eventually.
Yeah. Go on and toss the salad.
Laura was a little more assertive than Alvin. She was a really good cook. She liked to fish. She's her own woman.
We had a good life there.
And it seems their neighborhood is about to get even better.
Oh, it's a nice day out today.
Yeah.
Single mother Danetta Henry and her kids have just moved in next door.
Oh, look, I think our neighbors are there. I'm gonna go introduce myself.
They lived in townhouses that were right next to each other.
I knew I moved to the right spot. Hi, my name is Danetta. Looks like we're gonna be sharing a wall.
She was just a high-spirited person. She was a people person, just like I am.
Hi, I'm Laura. This is Alvin.
Nice to meet you. That's Desmond and that's Dejanay.
Danetta was a single mother, was trying to raise her kids as best she could.
She just was always optimistic. She worked a lot just to make sure we had the best.
Wow. Is that hickory?
Me and Al, we were barbecuing on the patio, and Danetta said, it sure smells good.
Yeah, she knows ribs.
You know, if it's not too much to ask, we've been moving all day.
Oh, not at all.
She asked for some ribs, so I gave her some ribs and hot links.
Awesome.
There's plenty for you kids, too.
This simple act of kindness bodes well for the future.
What a nice lady.
Really nice.
But a happy coexistence is never guaranteed.
I'm warning you! Go to hell.
to new friends?
Lots more wine.
For now, it seems the new neighbors are a good fit.
They were friendly. They hung out together, they talked, they spent time together.
Like, they would conversate. They used to drink together sometimes. It was just cool.
I'm waiting all day for this.
I would see them like hanging out in the front courtyard area or across the way at another neighbor's townhouse.
Hi, Mom. Hey, sweetie.
They were just the typical neighbors and, you know, just vibing with each other and stuff.
Then, according to Laura, Donetta begins to cross that line between being neighborly and being a nuisance.
Hey, while I have you, I actually have a favor to ask. Things are a little tight this month.
She started borrowing money, $3, $5. She was working at a nursing home, and she borrowed $5 from me.
Just, pay me back, okay?
Just because she's a new neighbor, she kept asking for stuff, and I was trying to help her out.
This look good.
We used to barbecue like once a month, and then she kept asking for barbecue.
Oh, wow. It smells like mesquite.
Oh, hey, girl. I got some for you. No, give her the big one, the kids.
I even put a whole slab of ribs on the grill one time and gave it to her.
Say hi to the kids for me.
That was an expensive cut of meat.
As they say, no good deed goes unpunished.
And then she asked, could she borrow some cooking grease? I gave it to her. And then she asked me one time, could she borrow some cornmeal? She said she wanted to fry some fish. She was asking for too much.
Laura says Donetta's requests come at all hours.
Someone at the door?
It's still dark outside, like 5 o'clock in the morning.
Did something happen?
No, not at all. I just need some garlic salt.
Garlic salt?
Yeah.
You gotta end this.
Alvin told me stop giving stuff out to the neighbors. He said, you feed a cat, they keep coming back.
Laura decides she has to shut this down once and for all.
Hey, girl, come out for a drink.
When she knocked on the door, I wouldn't even answer.
Where are you going? Come out for a drink.
I wouldn't even answer the door. Because I know every time she knocked on the door, she'd be begging. I'm not going to take care of you and your 2 teenage kids. That's what I told her.
I'm done with your mooching.
What are you talking about? Where are you going?
But there's another side to this story. According to Dejanay, it's her mother who actually decides to end the friendship.
I just know because my mom, she did used to drink often. She came to me one day was saying, you know, I'm not gonna be socialized, I'm not gonna be hanging out as much. She just really needs to focus because at that time she was trying to go back to school. She just wanted to better for us. So she wanted to slow down a lot. And it seemed like as my mom became distant, that's when Laura started to feel some type of way.
It's impossible to know exactly what starts to tear this friendship apart, but the breakdown is real.
4 in the morning, she's knocking on the door.
She did what? Tell me more.
That's her daughter over there.
You could tell it was directly towards my mom, like cracking jokes on her and stuff. When I initially started seeing the stuff and how she was acting towards my mother, I was very confused. I'm just like, is there something else going on or anything?
Are you guys laughing at my mom?
Laura has her own version of the entire story.
Everything we did, we didn't involve the neighbors in nothing that we did. No, we were never friends. I don't know where her daughter got that from. She never been inside my apartment.
Did you and Laura get into a fight? She's outside saying really mean things about you.
You come to the point where you're bullying, then of course, then that's when you kind of go naturally into defense mode. And that's what happened. It was very, very, very upsetting.
Battle lines are drawn, and neither side is backing down.
I was going to the mailbox and she was coming from the mailbox. And then she walked close and bumped me. I knew right then we were gonna start having fights.
But no one can imagine how bad it's all going to get.
And that's when things started escalating.
I don't think anyone thought it was going to get as far as it went.
Did you provoke her?
She attacked me.
Laura probably was not used to people standing up to her. Just let it go.
She was a very, persistent person. And she wasn't one that easily backed down. If she felt strongly about something, she would let you know it.
You messed with the wrong woman. Same to you. You just embarrassed me in front of my daughter.
There was verbal conflict, calling each other names, cussing each other out.
Oh, you messed with the wrong woman.
It was like some Lifetime movie stuff, crazy.
And the craziness just keeps coming.
Two o'clock in the morning, Laura would put her speaker against the wall and play her music really, really loud. And with us being literally neighbors and the walls being so thin, you can hear it throughout the whole townhouse.
Oh my God, what the hell? Oh my
You awake yet?
She was definitely doing it intentionally to upset us.
She kidding me? This time of night?
Cut this out!
It was crazy, like I couldn't wrap my head around it.
I work in a few hours!
My mom did go up there, and then, of course, it was words exchanged.
Don't make me come in there! I'm warning you!
Here's where the story gets tangled. Laura claims it was Donetta playing the loud music.
She started blasting her music up, putting her real loud, and I used to hear her saying, Al, he's not gonna be able to get no sleep, and he's gonna lose his job.
You're gonna end up home!
My understanding was Alvin and/or his significant other would on occasion knock on the wall and ask him to knock it off, which only made them turn the music up louder.
So I put my music up to drown hers out.
Come over there.
Laura summons the police.
Help! My neighbor is threatening me.
When authorities arrive, the music has been turned off.
There was a lot of finger pointing back and forth. It was really hard for the police department to know exactly what had happened prior to them being called out.
Work it out between you two.
Seriously? Are you kidding me?
It was his word against her word against his word.
And so really there's not a whole lot the police can do about that.
Okay, you know what? Let's go, you guys.
I guess we're just gonna have to let this one go.
Alvin is a peaceful person. I never saw him have a fight, with anyone.
You could tell he just worked and minded his business and really laid low and came and went.
But in this neighborhood feud, no one's letting anything go. Now another battle begins, and each side claims the other started it.
We had went outside and we seen that she had dumped it was clearly her garbage can over to our side of the back patio.
Okay, don't step in anything, okay? What is going on? Okay, don't.
You want food? Here you go.
Laura says she only ever threw food once, and only to get even.
I threw food over there that one day when Al was at work. Her and they was throwing food on my patio. When I called the police, they said they're not coming back out, so I started throwing food back over there. That was that one day. She threw food on my patio almost every day.
It was just like a food fight. It was very nasty. Very nasty.
That's for you. You want some more? There you know what? Back off.
Then, according to Dejanay, the conflict is taken to a whole new level.
Harassing my family. I'm sorry, what? I couldn't hear you. No. What? I didn't hear you. Calm down. What did you say?
There was an allegation at one point where Danetta reported that Laura had pulled out and brandished a handgun at Danetta and her 2 children.
Try and touch me again. Try.
She reached over and she waved a gun at us. It's like, I'll shoot both you bitches. I think it was a scare tactic, just to bully us and to think that she was more superior.
Go call the cops.
Police arrive, but it's the same old routine.
Ma'am, we looked everywhere. No gun in sight.
Nope. I ain't never threatened to let them no gun. Police search. Yeah, they didn't find nothing.
What? She must have hidden it. Your neighbor says she's innocent and we can't prove otherwise.
There wasn't evidence, and Laura denied committing the act, so there wasn't a whole lot that the police department could do at that point.
Oh my God. Next time you call, make sure you've got some evidence for us.
Whether or not Laura pulled a gun on her neighbor, a line has been crossed between the 2 women, and there is no going back.
When you antagonize someone that means no harm, eventually they get fed up.
You better watch yourself, Missy.
I was just mind blown.
After the falling out between the 2 women, there were dozens of incidents between the 2.
In this dispute, there's no such thing as a quiet cup of coffee on the back patio.
Okay. So...
Danetta did this. I just know it.
She had burned out our patio when we were asleep. She put cooking grease all on the patio glass and chocolate fudge, and she put spaghetti all on my patio.
The altercations were very tit for tat, very elementary, very childlike.
She'll throw food over, my mom will throw it back.
And it seems neither side is willing to surrender.
Something happened between the 2 of them to sour their friendship. They couldn't go their own ways because they were neighbors. They lived next to each other. So Laura and Danetta had to see each other on a daily basis.
Hey, you! Go to hell!
If the neighbor said something to her, then she'd say something back. If the neighbor said, I'm gonna get you, she would say, I'm gonna get you back, things like that.
Each side blames the other for instigating the arguments.
You better watch yourself, Missy.
She'll just call me names. She would call me a bitch and insults and stuff. You big nose bitch or you big eye bitch.
Hey, don't talk to my daughter that way. How dare you?
I would get very, very, very upset about it, but what can I do? I'm only 14.
Yet Laura claims just the opposite. She says Dejanay insulted her.
Hey, look, it's the local crazy lady. Hi, crazy lady.
Dejanay got smart when she was with her mother. She was trying to make her mother feel good.
The Henrys' neighbor contends she was just standing up for herself.
Watch yourself, Missy. Guess your mama didn't teach you any manners.
Okay, don't talk to my daughter that way.
She would get upset, but there's really nothing you could do. If she were to go over there, they would fight. It's just nothing she can do.
I just looked at it like this, may the best man win.
Okay, just go.
Trapped side by side, the opponents continue to hurl accusations at the other. Then one morning, as Alvin heads to work,
Alvin's truck was vandalized, and I believe Laura and Alvin assumed that either Donetta or her children were involved.
Laura, get out of here!
Oh my God.
She put toilet paper all on the truck and fudge and syrup.
How are you supposed to get to work? This is her.
She scratched off the tags off the car, and when you scratch the tags off, they don't give them to you free. Al had to pay $35 to go to DMV and get the tags.
The nerve of this woman.
Once again, Laura turns to the police.
Help, my neighbor did something crazy.
But they can't resolve this war.
So wait a second. You woke me up to accuse me of something I didn't do?
Both sides in the struggle feel betrayed by law enforcement.
We couldn't get no help from the police.
We've been out here a few times now.
Only call if there's an actual crime.
After the fact, Dejanay acknowledges she and her family were actually responsible, but only up to a point.
I would admit this. I can honestly say this. The only thing that my mom and I have done to his car was wrap it in toilet paper. Just being petty, wrap it in toilet paper. As far as the tires being popped, we did not pop any tires, scratch any tags or anything like that, no. But the toilet paper thing, that is valid.
After that, Alvin did not leave the car in the parking spot. He would park it 3, 4, 5, 6 blocks away, just to avoid the conflict.
And now Alvin has to bike to where he keeps his vehicle.
Al, he'll just hold it in. He was angry, but he don't show it.
He is willing to look beyond faults and try to resolve conflict.
Please, leave her alone.
He said, when you walk outside, don't say nothing to her. They try to keep peace. He said, don't say nothing to her. I said, well, only when she say something to me. Al's the type of person, he don't argue with nobody. He won't say nothing to nobody. I'm the one arguing with somebody. He won't say nothing to nobody.
If we don't fight back, she's just gonna keep walking all over us.
The police, they don't do nothing. You couldn't resolve nothing with her. She was crazy.
She's only gonna keep tormenting us if we give in.
I don't believe that my brother could control her. I just was concerned about what she would do.
were so many different reports, and maybe some of them truthful, maybe some of them made up.
When we get to the mall, can we check out the game store?
I'm just happy to be getting out of crazy town for a minute.
Why are the police calling me? Give me a second. Hello? Wait, how could we be causing a noise disturbance? We're not even home!
It's been times that we would leave, go on a bus somewhere, my mom would take us out somewhere, whatever. My mom would find out that the police have been by.
Laura denies ever making these kinds of calls.
I don't know nothing about that. Every time I called the police, they was at home.
This is a new low for her.
Either one of them had it within their power to stop it. Danietta could have stopped it too. She just chose not to. She wanted to continue to turn the knife and stick the knife and see how deep it would go.
The allegations and accusations keep ramping up. According to Laura, one night while walking home, Danetta and a group of thugs block her path.
I can tell they was part of a gang, just by the way they was dressing and stuff.
Yes, there was a belief that they were gangbangers.
What is this? What do you think you're doing?
Out there? Out there? Out there? Out there?
I know Danetta had a dumbbell. She had a silver one, like she gonna hit me with it.
Out there? Out there? Out there?
Call the cops, get out of here!
We're talking about the Hatfields and the McCoys, and not necessarily a lesser version.
This person is irrational. They're not thinking clearly. They're upset. They're angry. There is no negotiation. There is no reconciliation.
Out there? Out there? Out there?
And I told Al, I said, Al, don't let her hit me when she tried to come up behind me. And Al took it from her.
Out there?
Back up! Call the cops, get out of here!
The behavior of both of these women is so incomprehensible to me. I don't even understand that mindset, to tell you the truth. It's beyond me.
I need your help.
By now, police are tired of the constant calls. They refuse to intervene.
It didn't do no good to even call the police. That was out. That was just a waste of time.
Well, same to you.
Like so many of these stories, Laura lacks hard evidence to back up her claim.
I heard about the incident, but we couldn't prove the incident. Couldn't prove who the 5 men were because nobody seemed to know their names or where they came from or where they resided.
It was a lot of assumptions going on about my mom. Like, my mom has all like these dudes that's gonna do X, Y, and Z and all that. She don't bring other people in her. So I really don't know what happened, what could have happened. I don't wanna say it did or it didn't because I really don't know.
The only thing certain in this feud is that both sides believe they're the ones in the right.
I had pepper spray and I had a butcher knife. I said, I'm gonna stop calling the police because I'm not doing no good.
The confrontations between the two neighbors keep getting worse.
I pepper sprayed Danetta over the patio when she tried to hit me with something. Al was at work that day. One day, me and Al was on the patio when she tried to hit me with a bed rail. But then another time, every time I walked outside, I had my pepper sprayed Danetta a whole bunch of times.
Go inside, go inside.
So I just pepper sprayed both of them.
It was definitely a strong spray because I smelled it. I definitely smelled it and my nose started burning a lot. I honestly do not know why she was doing the stuff she was doing. And with me being a fair person, I look at stuff from both sides. I don't see it from her side at all.
Sometimes, even the most determined person can suddenly reach their breaking point. Danetta decides she's had enough.
Moving felt like the only choice. My mom, she wanted something new also, so she was even more eager to go.
You know, soon, we're gonna be away from her.
They had found a place to move, and they were going to be moving to get away from Laura and Alvin.
My mom knew it was not an environment that we should be in. It was too much. We were over it. We know we were moving soon, so we were really kind of like washed our hands of the whole situation. It was like, okay, it is what it is. We'll be out of the situation very soon.
But that belief proves to be dead wrong. 6 days before the Henrys move away for good, there's another incident. And Danetta blames her neighbor.
Laura! I know this had to be you!
We were moving in 6 days. Laura still kept going. She just wouldn't stop. She wouldn't stop. Even when we did stop, she wouldn't stop.
Laura denies the charges and claims it's Danetta who won't cease fire.
Danetta blended her food, looked like a bunch of throw up. They threw it all over, covered the whole security door. It dried up and we couldn't put the key in the keyhole. She got too comfortable with what she was doing. She wasn't going to jail. She see the police not gonna do nothing, so she got real comfortable.
Laura White says the assaults keep coming.
Wake up! Go to hell!
She woke me up that morning beating on the door, then they just kept on beating on it. She was talking stupid. She was just saying all kind of stuff. She was saying, when we move, it said y'all gonna have a miserable life.
She claims Danetta Henry taunts her endlessly.
Gonna have my friend play a little visit tonight!
She said that she was going to have members of a notorious Fresno street gang take care of Alvin.
She said, my homeboys coming over and they gonna that car and Al up.
My homeboys are gonna rearrange his face.
And so that is what threw him into a different mindset, is that a fear.
Wherever the truth lies, Alvin decides he needs to be prepared should he face a serious threat.
And that's when he got the gun and put the gun in his car. He did not want to be defenseless, coming from his car, going into his apartment.
There's less than a week to go before the Henrys move away from Laura White and Alvin Dalton.
It was a normal day. My brother was in the house playing a game, and my mom and I were walking to the store. She's talking about grandkids and all that, and I'm all like, lady, no, it's not gonna happen right now. Not that she wanted it right now, it just wasn't gonna happen no time soon.
They were walking back to the complex, and just before they got there, they ran into Laura. And so the women, as they met up, they started yelling, cursing.
As usual, there are differing accounts of what happens next.
Think you're gonna come to my house and fight now? Get out of my face!
I was just used to it. We're just like, lady, go. Like, what's your whole deal today? Just bye, get out of our way, whatever.
Laura asserts that out of the blue, Dejanay throws a sports drink at her. So she retaliates in self-defense. But Dejanay maintains that Laura attacks her and her mother entirely unprovoked.
You really think you're gonna come over and threaten Alvin?
She just started spraying us.
And the violence is just beginning.
She then came out of her townhome with a pot of boiling water and threw it on Danetta, scalding her, burning her. She started hitting her on the head and upper body, hitting her with the empty pot.
And of course I jumped in, trying to pull her off of my mom.
And that's when Dejanay started kicking me in the back, kicking me in the head and the back. Al grabbed her, and she tried to bite Al.
Home from school, Desmond hears the screaming and rushes outside.
Alvin, what the hell? Do something!
So he comes running out to see what's going on. He sees his mom being pummeled. He sees his sister being thrown to the ground, and he wants it to stop.
Get off my mom!
And he said, bitch, get off my mama.
He wants to help his sister and his mom. And he says, hey, get Laura off my mom. Stop the fight. And Alvin's response was, no, let him fight. Let him fight.
Alvin was a little bit relieved because he's like, look, maybe they just need to fight and get it out of their systems. And we'll be done with this once and for all.
What's the man on this? Needs to be fair.
My brother's trying to pull Laura off of my mom. My brother and Alvin is trying to break all of us apart. Alvin socks me.
Why the hell would you do that?
And my brother looked at him, was like, oh, so you hit my sister.
That's my sister, you know? Who do you think you are, man? Who do you think you are? Huh? Think you're tough? Who do you think you're talking to? I'm talking to you. I'm talking to you.
They was all trying to jump Al. Dejanay, Desmond, and Donetta.
Desmond took a swing at him. That just made Alvin even more mad. And he said something in response like, oh, you want to take a swing at me?
How you think you must be? Laura, get in the house and call 911.
Then Alvin makes an ill-fated decision.
He pulled out his handgun.
Everybody lost.
He pulled out a gun and he just started aiming.
You guys back up. Leave my children alone. I said leave them alone.
Alvin fired his gun multiple times. He hit Donetta. She was shot in the head, shot in the chest, shot in the arm, and shot in the forearm.
I was shot twice in my stomach and my elbow, and I was grazed on my butt. I was on the ground. I was on the ground, of course. And then I looked over and I seen my mom, and it was a lot of blood. I gave her a kiss, told her I love her.
Desmond ran up on Alvin. And I believe Desmond was struck in the thigh, and he had a grazed wound on his knuckles. And he grabs the gun, and the two of them start struggling over the gun.
And I look over, I see them fighting. I see his finger going like this on the gun, but the gun wouldn't go off. The gun jammed, thank God.
Alvin!
And at some point, Laura came up and took the gun from Alvin.
The shooting and the shouting finally stop. Terrified neighbors call 911. 6 days before she was planning to leave this place for good, Donetta Henry dies in front of her home.
I didn't know she passed until I was laying on a stretcher, and my brother was over me. He was crying, and he told me everything's gonna be okay. And then it was one of the guys there with the ambulance, and he was like, we don't need a stretcher for the other one. The other one's gone.
Alvin Dalton is arrested and taken into custody. Laura White is never charged.
You know, Laura was definitely guilty of being a bad neighbor, but, she didn't have the gun with her that day. She didn't pull it out. She didn't pull the trigger. That was all on Alvin.
At trial, Alvin's attorney argues he acted in self-defense.
This was not Alvin. Alvin had been pushed.
What's wrong with you? Get back.
Alvin, as far as I'm concerned, was just a gentle giant that they woke up.
The jury doesn't buy that he was in danger.
They didn't believe that you should bring a gun to a fight, especially a fist fight or a food fight.
Alvin Dalton is sentenced to 83 years to life for second-degree murder and attempted murder. His family is devastated.
I cannot believe that my big brother, who has spent his whole life being a law-abiding person, a law-abiding tax-paying citizen, a brilliant student. He was the first one in our family to graduate from college. He set the pace for all of his younger siblings. Alvin was a really good example. I cannot believe that he will now no longer fish, no longer have a beer, no longer have his freedom. It's been taken from him, just snatched. I do not recall any testimony about Alvin's behavior that was antagonistic. It was all Laura's behavior and Danietta's behavior. If Laura didn't live there, there would be no conflict.
It could have been prevented if the police would have did something. See, I blame the police too. I told Al, I said, we made all those phone calls just so you go to prison.
Laura still stands by Alvin and marries him while he's in prison.
We got married December 4, 2014.
Dejanay and Desmond Henry are raised by relatives. Despite their terrible loss, both rebuild their lives.
I run 2 businesses. I'm a young entrepreneur. I have a son. He'll be 5 this month. My brother's now a truck driver. He's married. He's a truck driver. He has his career path and stuff, so he's doing really, really well, and he's really happy. I miss everything about my mom. I just kind of take it day by day. I go through the emotions of it. It's a lot. It's a lot. Losing a parent is bad enough, but losing a parent how I did and actually seeing it happen, that's just something that I battle with a lot more than people know or think.